from a mental health and body image perspective, I do not align with this. I think it's really damaging, really dangerous. Once again, we are back in front of the camera. Ow, my hand. Once again, we're back in front of the camera. And, well, I said back in front of the camera. Back in front of the camera, the microphone, and the very light light, and the computers. This is somebody who I've been meaning to discuss for quite some time. And that's Emi Wong, who is a YouTube creator, an online influencer, and she's doing many bits and bobs, which many may deem to be problematic, but we'll get into that shortly. Before we crack on with the video, a few things I must run through very quickly. Smashing the like goals recently, absolutely madness. I love to see it, so again, thank you so much. We're going to progressively overload this week, just slightly, and we're going to shoot for 1,100 likes in 24 hours. That is the goal, and it would be bloody fantastic if we could reach that, because the bar has never been that high before. If you aren't already, please do consider clicking the red button down below and subscribing to the channel, and maybe even the bell next to it so you get notified when I upload every week, twice a week. I know you may not be convinced whether you want to subscribe to a very pale man with a very large forehead on YouTube just yet. Just know that if you do decide to take the leap, take the plunge, it does really help the channel out, and I do really appreciate it because it's fantastic to see the TFNL family growing, especially at the rate that it is currently growing. It's bloody amazing. So honestly, thank you again. But regardless of whether you subscribe or not, I just appreciate you for being here and for tolerating my content. If you have a question you want me to answer at the end of the next video, drop it down below in the comment section for comment question of the week, and I shall do so. We're taking a break from the caps today. There is another Disney kind of theme cap I want to wear, but not today. I thought I'd spice it up and be a bit more cool. Jokes on you, I'm always cool. I actually kind of back it, to be honest. I think it's a really nice colour. I deliberately put the black on because I think the black and pink is quite nice. Well, the boys get sad hoodie on too represent. What do we think? I can't wear it very well because my head is absolutely huge, but I like it. Anyway, sorry, I digress. We're going to talk about Emi Wong. Let's have a gander at her YouTube channel, which is her dominant social media platform. This is by no means a deep dive. This is me just speaking about a couple of videos that jumped out to me initially and me giving some input as we go through those videos regarding what I think is right and what I think could be improved. But the one thing I have noticed, which I must be honest with you, is there is a lot of clickbait occurring, and there's also no disclaimer in the description stating it is clickbait essentially. But now I guess we should crack on with some of the videos I have selected. The intro is very much just an intro and talks about her sponsorship with that video, which we're obviously not interested in, so I'm going to skip forward if you don't mind. Let's talk about Slim Calves Quick. Implies that it's like a spot reduction video, in which case you will do these exercises and stretches to make your calves slimmer, i.e. potentially lose fat in that area. So you and I, we know that you cannot spot reduce fat, despite what many of the people will say online. You just can't do it. It's just not possible. Fat loss and fat gain is very much determined by your genetics. Your body basically decides where it wants to go. Back in the day when I was about 19, so 8 years ago, I was training at a commercial gym, and a bodybuilder came over to me and says, "Oh, I'm looking good, man." I was like, "Thank you very much, I appreciate that." He says, "I can tell you're holding unnecessary fat in your chest region. Do you eat a lot of chicken thighs?" He said, I said, "I eat some." "Well, if you want to reduce chest fat, remove chicken thighs from your diet and only eat chicken breast, because the fat from chicken thighs gets stored in your chest." Obviously, I know that's not true, and obviously, I like to think most people know that's not true. But the fact he even said, I was almost a bit taken back, like, really? I've not heard that myth before, and I've heard many a myth in my time. Anyway, I digress. 13 exercises, 50 seconds each, 10 seconds rest. Interesting. So we have a feet lift. Essentially, this is a calf raise. The only difference you'll get is you're getting a bit of like a tibialis raise, which is where you're lifting the toes off the ground as well. Would I stress about training the tibialis? Probably not, unless you're maybe a competitive bodybuilder that wants to go down that route. To be honest with you, this is not a calf lift. This is a weightless, and to be honest, I would then say borderline pointless, standing leg curl. The primary mover, i.e. the primary muscle working, would be the hamstrings. I'm going to be straight, again, no disrespect. I'm already not feeling particularly optimistic about what's to come, but I will keep an open mind regardless, because I always will, and I will also appreciate what Emi is doing here, which is encouraging people to work out from the comfort of their home, which is fantastic. I look like Slim Shady from 8 Mile. It's a shame I can't rap. You can understand obviously the calves probably be incorporated a bit of stability and stuff, but would I ever consider this to be a calf dominant movement? Absolutely not. If you're going to train the calves at home or at the gym, whatever it is, I would try and maybe do no more than 2 exercises in a session. I don't think you need more than that. I only do 1 exercise in a session, and that exercise is either going to be a standing calf raise or a seated calf raise or a variation of such. If you want to do 2 exercises in a session, I'd do 1 of each. If your desire is to lose weight and get slimmer legs, ultimately that will come from a calorie deficit in which your body will decide where it wants to lose the weight. Emi has 4.75 million subscribers, and that's fantastic. She's obviously got a huge audience, which is bloody fantastic. And as I said, I really appreciate that she is actively getting people active and doing things. I always try and understand things from like multiple perspectives, so I can form like a balanced opinion and a balanced argument. But this I do really struggle with, because the way I kind of see things like this, especially with these kind of titles, this very much to me feels like it's very much a target of insecurities. So there may be certain individuals who feel like their calves are overdeveloped, or maybe that's where their body stores all of their fat, whatever it may be, and they may be very insecure about the size of their calves. So due to those potential insecurities, they may likely find workouts like this and then rely on these as means of addressing those insecurities. And then I struggle because Emi seems like she is potentially capitalizing on said insecurities, and I think that's quite a problem. And it's not just that video, unfortunately. A lot of her titles, as I did state earlier, are very clickbait dominant, and I do understand clickbait is a necessary evil because it's just how the YouTube algorithm works. The more people that click on your video, like the click-through rate, the more likely YouTube are to push it to more people, the more likely your channel is to grow, you're going to reach a wider audience, which I know is what a lot of people want, which is bloody fantastic, but it's within reason. So some people may look at my titles and be like, oh, they're a bit clickbaity, and unfortunately, again, like I said, it's a necessary evil. I have to title them in a manner that is appealing to a hopefully wider audience. I will never fill them with false promises, and I will never fill them with something that isn't actually related to the video in some sense. But then you go on things like this: 10-minute exercise and stretch for shoulders, neck, and the collarbone area. And then obviously it's highlighted this area in the thumbnail, and obviously it's showing that area in the video. I question whether this is almost like capitalizing on the insecurities. This is not just Emi who does these things. I just want to clarify, I'm not attacking her. I never am attacking an individual. I'm merely assessing the content. And I understand that a lot of other creators are doing things along these lines. Do I agree with it? Absolutely not. Because if we look back at when like the hip dips were coming around, and that was like the big trend, and like the hourglass figure, there have been so many trends in which certain areas of the body have been emphasized as in and maybe like fashionable. That is not promoting a great message for body image. I feel personally, although all genders are facing their own societal pressures, but I do feel like when it comes to body related pressures such as the hip dips, such as like the hourglass waist, whatever it may be, that women are more targeted than anybody else. Because if you go through these magazines like women's health magazines, you go through these kind of workouts, it's very much a target of insecurities that are largely fed by the media. Obviously, as a man, I can only comment so much. I only know my experiences from a male perspective, but I can at least try to understand how difficult that must be for women who are experiencing this constant pressure and battle against the media who are pushing these unrealistic body expectations onto women, which are then further enhanced by content creators who are then capitalizing on these insecurities that have been formed from what has been portrayed by the media and almost expected from society. So it's just such a shame to see. Like, I lived in a house of only women for over 20 years. So when I was 6 years old, my parents separated and I lived with my mum and my sister. I remembered I would come home and I'd see on like the dining room table, or maybe in like the lounge, there'll be like a women's fitness magazine which would very much promote slim as in, things along those lines. And when you're young, you don't really pick up on things, but obviously as I got a bit older and entered the industry and started understanding mental health and body image related issues myself, I'm thinking, imagine being exposed to that kind of information on a daily basis and how much pressure women must feel to look a certain way because it's what they're told society wants. Chasing trends like these body related trends isn't sustainable. In a year's time, there's going to be a new trend. That's never going to result in happiness for anybody, unfortunately. That's why I always preach, and I will always preach, look how you want to look for you without the consideration of anybody else. I would always push towards desiring to look like an even better version of yourself. If you spend your life trying to please other people, you'll please nobody. That includes them and that includes you. Sorry, I've ranted a bit. I just find titles like this quite damaging and dangerous and potentially quite triggering because it is just promoting unrealistic expectations of body standards and beauty standards. It's contributing to the problem, and I can't align with that. As I've said, I do appreciate that Emi is getting people active, and this doesn't just apply to her, this applies to many a content creator. From a mental health and body image perspective, I do not align with this. I think it's really damaging, really dangerous. At this point, I think clickbait has gone too far. Okay, so let's have a look at the exercise very quickly. So shoulder shrugs is a shrug. Ultimately, when you are shrugging, the primary mover there is going to be the traps. Like this muscle here, if you're saying these exercises are for that region, it kind of does imply that to build muscle or enhance that region in some means, because we know you can't spot reduce fat in that area, so it must be to enhance it through the building of muscle. It's one thing having your body weight as resistance, like with a pull-up or a push-up, things along those lines, fantastic. When you're doing movements like this, there is no resistance. It's probably not going to do anything, because you have to consider what you need to build muscle. And the big thing there is mechanical tension, as I repeat so many times. There is no mechanical tension. How are you going to progressively overload this? But again, what is this movement going to achieve without resistance? Again, a triangle. Where do these exercises come from? This is what I'm kind of baffled by. I've never said this before, and I don't like saying this because it comes across as very negative, and I don't mean to be. But this is probably one of the most disappointing YouTube videos I've ever watched. And I don't mean that merely from an exercise selection perspective, but I also mean that from a mental health and body image perspective. I genuinely am very upset and very disappointed by this content. Again, I don't know if all of her content is like this because I have only seen a few of her videos, so my opinion is very much isolated to what I have seen. Is Emi even qualified? Like, that's what I don't understand, because ultimately, if you were just to throw this video in front of me and I want to look at the title or anything along those lines, this is exactly what will come to my mind. An individual with a large following has basically sat down and chosen the first exercises that come to mind that involve movement in the areas she's looking to emphasize, with no thought, no preparation, but purely for the creation of content, maybe influenced by financial gain. Just to clarify, this is not a bicep stretch, no. If you have a look, wait for it, the arm is bent. The bicep is not stretched out. For the bicep to be stretched out, it needs to be fully lengthened. There is a bend in the elbow, therefore it is not fully lengthened. Therefore it is not a bicep stretch. If anything, this is going to be more of like a rear delt upper back sort of stretch. I'm just struggling to see and comprehend the purpose of these exercises, because I just think this content can be so damaging for consumers, especially young women who may not know mass amounts about the industry, or may not know mass amounts about biomechanics or the anatomy of their body. They will often think, oh, well, you know what, she looks fantastic, so maybe if I do this, I will look like her. I don't believe her physique was achieved by doing movements like this on a regular basis. I'm at a bit of a loss, to be honest, because I actively try and find the positive in anything I review and analyse, because again, I'm not here to bash anybody, it's not my job. The whole point of this channel is to enhance the lives of those who choose to watch my content, be that through education or entertainment, whatever it may be. If you are doing things like this where there is no science behind it, there's no sense behind it, and the title is, I would argue, to be quite damaging and dangerous, I think that has the potential to have far more of a negative impact than a positive impact. And to us, even some of the comments are a bit concerning. Based on this comment, one could assume this is a young individual. Be honest, we're all doing this during summer to go back to school looking like supermodels. Is that really the message you're trying to promote to the younger generation? Do you want young individuals to be desiring to go to school looking like a supermodel? Like, obviously, if you want to look like a supermodel, absolutely fine, that's absolutely fine. You do you, you must do what's best for you. Young individuals are very impressionable, and you've got to think about what kind of impact this could have on them, their mental health, and what impact this could have on them going forward, and their relationship with their body, and maybe even potentially with food as well. Imagine being so fit that your abs show even while sitting. Abs showing has no real relation to your fitness levels and how healthy you are. It's very much down to your body fat percentage, essentially. I just want to clarify that. You cannot look at somebody and assume that they're very fit and healthy based on their appearance, because you just don't know. You don't know what's going on emotionally. You don't know what's going on internally. There are many things to consider. I never knew you could sculpt your collarbones. Your collarbones are a bone. You can't change bones. They are your skeleton. They are your structure. You cannot change that. I love to know in which age bracket Emi's dominant audience fall into, because I have a strong suspicion, based on the comments I've read, that it's likely going to be younger individuals, likely younger women, and it makes me worry for the mental health of those who consume this content. Maybe not now, but in the long run. Please be careful when you're considering whose content you choose to consume. If it sounds too good to be true, it likely is. If what they're saying is not backed by science, probably not the thing to follow, you know? If you're watching this and you're following somebody and you aren't sure whether you should be following them because you aren't sure if their content is actually legit and or accurate, please don't hesitate to send it across to me. I'll have a look and give my opinion, because I do not want you consuming content that has potential to harm you. But now we must crack on with comment question of the week, and I'll make it a quick one because I know I've waffled quite a lot. How often would you recommend changing things up in your programming, i.e. changing movements and rep ranges? Is changing it up every 4 weeks too frequent? If you're looking at optimizing, let's say building muscle, optimizing a goal, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I have done the same movements in my workout program near enough since gyms reopened in April. We're now in November, because I am still progressing progressing in those movements, therefore there's no need to change it. Your body doesn't need to be shocked. I would only really change things up if your goals have changed, i.e. certain areas need more attention than others, etc, etc, or you can no longer progress that movement. But that is it. That is the video. Hopefully you tolerated the video and hopefully you took something away from it. 1100 likes in the first 24 hours is the goal, so if we could hit that, that'd be bloody splendid. If you haven't already, please do consider clicking the red button down below, subscribing to the channel, and maybe even the bell next to it so you get notified when I upload every week, twice a week. And if you too have a question you want me to answer at the end of the next video, drop it down below for comment question of the week and I shall do so. Thank you for tolerating my waffle, thank you for tolerating my rants, and thank you for tolerating the video.